In 2009, the legendary developers Yuke's and THQ released the first serious mixed martial arts game, with UFC Undisputed 2009, a game that really made an effort to accurately represent mixed martial arts while still having the pick up and play aspect of the SmackDown vs. Raw series. But this all would not have happened if not for everybody's favorite video game company, Electronic Arts. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've heard this story, but for those who have not, let me explain. Before it was THQ, Dana White was looking to make another UFC video game since the explosion in popularity of the UFC, this coming after some mediocre games in the early 2000s. Naturally, Dana sat down with, at the time, the sports video game company, EA Sports. During this decade, EA wasn't the EA we know now. They actually made some decent games and weren't a laughingstock. I mean, look at NBA Live 2005, arguably one of the greatest basketball games ever released. But when Dana met with EA, they, in his words, say, "You want a real sport." So Dana teamed up with THQ and Yuke's, and we got Undisputed 2009, which went on to sell over 3.5 million copies. And EA, acting like a child at the playground, it just wanted to fit in too. So they decided they're going to make their own MMA game, and this did not sit well with Dana. He was quoted as saying, "EA Sports told us, you're not a real sport. We wouldn't touch this thing. We want nothing to do with this. We put our asses on the line, THQ and the UFC, to make a video game deal in the worst economy in the world. We go out there and do this thing, and it's successful, and now fucking EA Sports wants to do a video game. Really? That's not what you told us a year and a half ago. You told us you'd never be in business with us. They wouldn't even take a meeting because mixed martial arts disgusted them. This wasn't a real sport." Boy, they got over that quick, didn't they? I'm not tap dancing around this thing, whatever. I'm telling you straight up, I'm at war with them right now. That's how I look at it. But this still would not deter EA from releasing their own game to compete with Undisputed 2010. So how does EA do in a main event fight against THQ and Yuke's? Better than you would think, honestly. The biggest difference between the Undisputed series and EA MMA is how it feels and plays. Rather than be a carbon copy of Undisputed, EA MMA is a complete simulation of the sport. That's not to say that 2009 or 2010 were unrealistic arcade games or anything, but they did have some elements that made it more enjoyable for someone who's not that familiar with mixed martial arts. For example, if you want to throw strikes with no regard for defense or strategy, you can do that with little to no consequence. In EA MMA, you can do it, but it's going to end with you getting countered or KO'd. Yes, Undisputed also had flash KOs, I'm not going to pretend like they weren't there, but in EA MMA, getting rocked or even getting flash KO'd, it feels more shocking or more like an OMG moment. Being aggressive in this game if you don't know what you're doing isn't exactly the smartest idea. You need to be smart and calculative with what you throw and where you throw. Whiffing a big strike can and will lead to the fight being over. This game has a ground and pound mechanic when dropped where you need to throw as many strikes as you can while the defender smashes the circle button as fast as they can. And the ground and pound in this stage is pretty brutal.
Reflexes to block. What look? Oh wow, he's dropped him again. He has knocked him to the ground. How much more can he take? Woodley has got it.
But striking, of course, is just one element of the fight game. The grappling, for the most part, is pretty easy to understand. Clinching and takedowns are all done with the right stick, but rather than a spinning motion, it's flicks. For example, single leg takedown, flick right. Muay Thai clinch, flick up. This goes for transitions as well, you just flick left or right depending on your position. During my time with EA MMA, however, I did have a small complaint that was just a skill issue, and that is the denying and the counters. Because I'm using the classic controls instead of total punch control, the denies are hold back on the left stick rather than right. But that's what the game tells you. At times, I found it painfully inconsistent, like sometimes left wouldn't do jack shit. Sometimes I'd hold right and it worked just fine, and sometimes I would hold left and it worked. But I think I understand it now. I think I understand it a bit better. Holding back on the right stick will deny clinch attempts and takedown attempts. But to actually deny transitions and counter them, it's still the left stick. I'll be honest, this is one aspect where I think THQ and Yuke did it slightly better. The submissions, on the other hand, are handled really well in my opinion, and unlike in 2010 where they flat out don't work, you can actually do them here. There are two different types of submissions, joint and choke submissions. The joint submissions are a minigame, but not like button mashing, it's more of outdo your opponent while managing your stamina, if that even makes sense. And choke submissions are about finding the sweet spot to lock in and make the other guy submit. And I gotta be honest, there's nothing better than catching an overzealous opponent lacking and locking in that choke to win.
Great technique on the sprawl, great position, great posture.
Miller looking for the win via choke, and not just any choke, this is the Darce choke.
You got it! Finish the submission!
Miller has done it! He gets the submission win! Game, set, match!
Presentation is an aspect that EA MMA shines at. It's arguably the most important part of any game besides gameplay, and this game had the promotional backing of Strikeforce, which is why you can compete in the hexagon cage. But it's not just Strikeforce. Let's say you wanted to instead compete in a fight with 1 round 20-minute value to the rules in a circle cage. Okay, go ahead and do it. And that's a real 20 minutes, by the way. This game does not have an accelerated clock. Or let's say you're big on Japanese MMA and want to compete with pride rules with soccer kicks in a boxing ring. Go ahead. The game will allow you to do it, and it's fucking awesome. Depending on what rules and arena you use, you'll see longtime MMA referee Big John McCarthy watching the fight closely. And on the commentary front, we have MMA legend Frank Shamrock and Mauro Ranallo doing the commentary. Even this game's soundtrack, which I can't play through because if I do, the copyright police will kick my door in and I'll never be heard from again, is really good, featuring artists like Linkin Park, Disturbed, Volbeat, and rap acts like Tech Nine, Method Man, Brother Ali, and Paul Wall of all people. That's not a dig to Paul Wall, by the way, I love his music, but Paul Wall in an MMA game seems like it just doesn't make sense, but I'll take it. Speaking of Frank Shamrock, he's actually playable, by the way, along with Ken. There's even a trophy you can pop for using the two in a fight. The roster consists of anybody who had a name that wasn't in the UFC, with a lot of Strikeforce standouts like Kung Lee and Nick Diaz, along with some UFC legends like Tim Sylvia and Andrei Arlovsky. You can also play as Boss Rutan, which makes the game automatically cool. And Bobby Lashley's in the game, which as a pro wrestling fan is awesome. Granted, this wasn't some fun side inclusion. Bobby Lashley did have an actual career in mixed martial arts, having a record of 15-2. But probably the most controversial person on the roster is someone who actually never even fought in Strikeforce. Randy Couture, the Natural, MMA legend. He never actually signed his likeness to THQ and Ukes, and this was also around the time where he was campaigning hard against a fight with Fedor Emelianenko. That's actually what the majority of this game's marketing was based on, even down to the front cover of the game. And I'm sure this is one of the many reasons why Dana still hates Couture to this day. But jumping into the one game mode, we have the career mode. Well, before we start, we need to make our own fighter, and I'm honestly impressed with how in-depth the calf suite is. It's pretty on par with 2010's. I think that 2010 does it slightly better with being able to scale and place tattoos and sponsorship logos wherever you want instead of preset locations. But the actual mode itself starts off with Boss Rutan giving you a rundown of how the game was played, which is actually appreciated here. But once you complete the tutorial, you select one of 2 leagues to fight in, and in between you have about 8 weeks to train in different exercises for all the different stats, and it's more like Fight Night in this category instead of 2010. If you're like me though, you're more than likely just going to get A on all of them and just keep simming to get to the fights quicker. And in terms of fights, you only get offered one opponent. You cannot decline or scroll through and offer fight options. You just have to fight who the game gives you, and this will become a bit of a problem later. One thing that I thought was a really cool addition was being able to choose between different promotions. They're all fictional, sure, but I still think this is really cool. Just because I like to keep it honest with y'all, I played the beginning of the career on medium because it was the default, and I did play a little bit on easy near the middle, and by the end I switched it back to medium once I had some good stats and I had enough to hold my own. Because this game's pretty hard. Nothing is more annoying than getting wrestle-fucked all fight. You know what, now I see why my friends get mad when I sub them on UFC 5. I actually had some fights that were pretty difficult, like this one fight against this Watson calf. He kicked my ass for 2 rounds straight, outstriking me and rocking me a few times. And then the third, I ended up catching him with a good shot and finished him. Or later, when I was in Strikeforce, I defended my belt against Mayhem Miller, and he would not go down. He took everything I threw at him. So eventually I just subbed him. But one of the concepts in this game that I think is really cool is the travel option. This allows you to fly to different gyms all around the world like Extreme Couture to train with the Natural himself and learn special moves. And the concept of training with actual fighters is really cool. Most of the training in the Undisputed series, mainly 2009 and 10, is a lot of sparring, and all that is gone at EA MMA. You can spar, but it doesn't give you stat points. The drills themselves boost the stats, which is good. You don't gotta rest or manage that, any of that shit. At these gyms, you can learn special moves. These are basically shit like Superman punches and flying knees. Usually it's just flicking right and then a face button, while in Undisputed, if I wanted to do a Superman punch, I just hold L1 and square, which in my opinion is the better option. But as a career mode, it actually isn't bad and is surprisingly in-depth. I did start to fight the same guys over and over by the time I got all of my footage, so that problem isn't fixed. Like, I fought Kung Lee and I submitted him pretty decisively, and he's immediately my next fight. But besides that, it's a very fun career mode if you're not garbage like I am. But for EA's first attempt at an MMA game, it's not bad. It's a good game, actually. Really in-depth and a good sim of MMA. While I still think the Undisputed games are slightly better due to their pick-up and play nature, I recommend picking this game up if you have never played it. But that was my review of EA Sports MMA. This game had a lot of dope online shit, like being able to cut promos against other people. This game only lasted a year online, I believe, so I can't talk about any of that, obviously. But if you guys enjoyed this video and have some memories or stories about EA MMA, put them down in the comments. I want to hear about them. And if you liked what I did, check out some of my other work. I cover a lot of different games and topics. I cover stuff from Grand Theft Auto all the way to wrestling games. And, yeah, share this video with your friends, and have a good day.